Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I made this review originally on my other channel for comic book stuff, and I thought it would do okay there. I got like 20 views on it. And I thought, this is more of a horror thing. This is something I think a lot of you horror guys out there would enjoy. If you haven't heard of the show before, if you happen to be a little bit older than me, this is a wake-up call to you about the best cartoon ever made, in my personal opinion. My personal favorite cartoon ever made. Not my favorite show. My favorite show is probably Boy Meets World. My favorite cartoon is this show, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. And yes, this is a bootleg set. This is a 7-volume bootleg set with the same picture on every single one of them. This includes the two movies, The Big Boogie Adventure and the Underfist movie, which was the final thing, I believe, that Billy and Mandy was ever tied into at all, which is a shame, in my opinion, because the show is phenomenal. Just so you know, if you haven't seen this show and you're a horror fan, you have to watch this series at some point. It is probably the most classic horror cartoon ever, but it's not dedicated to just that. It's a little bit of everything. It would touch on some pop culture stuff, like Harry Potter was a big part being made fun of in this, which was everywhere at the time. All that used to make fun of Harry Potter as well. It was everywhere. It's a humongous worldwide phenomenon. This series would make fun of Star Wars and Night of the Living Dead, which my channel is named after, and Dragon Ball Z at one point. Chicken Ball Z, do you guys remember that particular episode of Billy and Mandy if you watched the show? There was so much good about the show, and rewatching it recently on this bootleg set, which, by the way, why do we not have an official release of this? We have one for Powerpuff Girls, Ed, Edd n Eddy, with most of the episodes in those sets. Johnny Bravo doesn't have any love, and this doesn't have any love. But Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends has a release? What? That was never as popular as this was. So anyway, this show started in 2003. It ran to 2007 with 6 seasons. And to me, from beginning to end of this show, before the 2 movies come into hand, mind you, I'll probably wait off on reviewing the movies. It's been a little bit since I finished the series and the 2 movies. I've seen the show so much, I can speak to this video without having to worry about covering them. I never saw the 2 movies until this year. It's been so long, like I said, I can't really talk about them that much. But the show from beginning to end, from pilot to finale, for me personally, I think it's phenomenal. I think there's nothing like it. I don't think there will ever be anything like it at all. The kind of humor was not completely child-friendly. It was not politically correct at all. I'll get more into that later when I talk about character stuff. But Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy was a classic. It absolutely was. And I've talked about this before on my Goosebumps channel, Michael Goosebumps fan, for you folks who are interested. One of my things that I have watched every single year on DVD, except for the year that it premiered on Cartoon Network, is Billy and Mandy's Jacked Up Halloween on this DVD set. Cartoon Network Halloween 9 Creepy Cartoon Capers from back in the day. This is something you've got to see. If you have never seen Billy and Mandy's Jacked Up Halloween, but for some reason you think Linus standing around in a fucking pumpkin patch looking for the Great Pumpkin is interesting, you need to see this. This is timeless cartoon comedy for me. I think it's the funniest dark comedy thing ever made. I think it's easily the best episode of Billy and Mandy ever made. I watch it every year, sometimes multiple times a year for Halloween. It's great. Thank God I didn't break it that time. I could not recommend that episode enough of this show. That's the best episode you should ever watch. Easily. But again, the show from beginning to end is great. Let's get to the plot, though. Essentially, by the way, the day that I finished the show, WB removed the series entirely from HBO Max or Max. I'm hoping that's a sign that we'll get an official box set. I'm hoping. But I'm not going to hold my breath on that. And probably, even if it does come out, it probably won't have everything in there, just like how Ed, Edd n Eddy doesn't. But anyway, essentially, the pilot of the show explains that Billy and Mandy, particularly Billy, they're best friends. Mandy is a very mean, eventually dictatorial person who is probably going to take over the world with how mean and hateful she is. But she's best friends with Billy, who's an absolute idiot. Essentially, they have a bet at one point to save the life of Billy's gerbil, hamster, whatever it was, by having a bunch of games they play against the Grim Reaper himself. He comes to reap the soul of the gerbil, hamster, whatever. And eventually, they have these games and stuff, and he loses to Billy and Mandy. So now he has to be their slave. And yes, they say slave. He has to do their house cleaning, their chores, go to school with them. And of course, he has magic abilities. And so they use him also for those things. Most of this show are them getting stuck into capers involving his abilities and how he can open up portals to other dimensions. And he has a magical scythe that can do all these things like fly. And they meet Father Time at one point and all these things. Their parents can't believe that they're friends with this giant skeleton guy. But the show, from the get-go, from the pilot, has the driest humor I've ever seen in my life. It's not like British dry, you know what I mean? Like, it's like American dry humor. Like The Office remake in America. It's like that, but dark. It's for horror fans. And if you grew up loving horror, especially Universal Monsters, not just pop culture things like Dragon Ball Z and stuff I mentioned earlier, if you like that kind of thing, this show is for you. It nails every single storyline that it goes for. Every single one. I mean, even side characters, I just love them to death, dude. The humor in here is just magnificent. I don't know how Maxwell Adams, the creator of this show, came up with this show. But it's probably, again, my favorite cartoon of all time. And I've seen many of these shows that I've watched, especially from Cartoon Network, over and over again. I cannot believe that this show did not get the love and adoration that SpongeBob got back in the day. I think it's a sin that SpongeBob and Rugrats, as much as I love those, did better than this show in their success. You know what I mean? This show is timeless to me. And I think those two shows are too, as well as all the shows I mentioned earlier on in the review. But there's something special about this show. Maybe it's the animation style, maybe it's the jokes, the satires, the parodies, all the things they do. But it's just such a standout in so many ways. So I guess the place I'll go to next is talking about some of the side characters. So I mentioned earlier, they are not politically correct at all whatsoever. There's a bully character in here. Do you want to guess what the bully's name is? Spurg. Like Asperger's. I'm not even kidding. Spurg, even as a bully character, is probably one of the best characters in the show. Not because he becomes eventually relatable or anything like that, even though that's arguable at one point. Spurg is super fun. I like him. I like how he's like a kid in elementary school who has a tattoo of the word mom on his shoulder with a heart around it. That's hilarious. That's so good, dude. And then you have the best friend of Billy, who's not Mandy. His name is Irwin. He's a young black nerd. Irwin is the funniest fucking cartoon character ever, in my opinion. When it comes to this Halloween special, Billy and Mandy's Jacked Up Halloween I keep telling you about, dude, Irwin is the highlight of that particular episode of this show. There's another weird, creepy, quiet kid that they go to school with named Puddin'. Puddin' is hilarious. He's always very babified. I love it, dude. It never gets old. Billy's mom having this weird rivalry with the Grim Reaper and how much she can't stand him is hilarious. Billy's dad being a grown-up with hair version of Billy is hilarious. Richard Stephen Horvitz plays both of them. And it's great. I love the voice. I love Billy's voice specifically. Richard Stephen Horvitz, for anybody who doesn't know, played Alpha 5 on Power Rangers back in the Mighty Morphin days. And he's a great voice actor. I love him. My girl, God, what is her name? I'm so bad with names, dude. Let me look this up real quick, because I feel bad. I had it in my brain, and then I started reviewing Grey Delisle. Grey Delisle plays Mandy. I think her name used to be Grey Griffin, if I remember correctly. She's excellent. Probably one of the best voice actresses ever, aside from, like, Tara Strong. I love Grey Griffin, Grey Delisle, whatever you want to call her. She is excellent on this show as Mandy, and a bunch of other characters too, but specifically as Mandy. But my favorite, my absolute favorite actor and character in this show is the Grim Reaper. Grim himself, played by Greg Eagles, one of the funniest characters ever made in history. Now, I personally think that Johnny Bravo aside from the Eds from Ed, Edd n Eddy, is probably one of the funniest characters ever made in all of history of anything. Ever. For you Deadpool obsessors out there, get the fuck out of here. It's Johnny Bravo all day or nothing. But Greg Eagles doesn't just play the Grim Reaper. He gives him a Jamaican accent. And I think that was an insane choice when I was a kid. It was so unique, and it's so distinct, and for the style of art they have for this excellent little show, that Jamaican accent fits Grim so good, and the humor fits that so well too, that when Grim gets beaten up and disassembled over and over again, if somebody even slightly hits him, his whole body just falls apart. It's great. It's super funny, dude. Greg Eagles makes this show for me. I'm glad it's basically named after him at the beginning of the title. The art style's great. I love the sound effects and the music, man. Every time you turn around, and I know this sounds like it'd be immature and annoying, but hear me out. I'm one of these people, I don't really like fart humor. I never did when I was a kid, except for like the one scene from Dr. Dolittle with Eddie Murphy, but I think it was a bear scene if I remember correctly, but aside from that scene, I've never really been a fart humor guy. And you're talking to the lowbrow, cusses every other word guy for his YouTube channels. But I've never been a fart sound guy. But this show, dude, it uses it great. All the other sound effects that even sound similar to that, like burping and whatnot, are placed so hilariously in this show, it never gets old. It never gets old. And I don't think I've ever shown Billy and Mandy to anybody that didn't love it by the time they ended their first episode watching it. When I was a kid, all of my friends and I, the day the Halloween episode premiered, we all scattered. I think it was on a Friday night, if I remember correctly. I think I was in middle school, I believe. I would have had to have been. Yeah, I would have had to have been by the time with how things look on the when it came out. I remember that day, around Halloween when that came out, we all rushed home to watch that. And we all watched the Cartoon Network Friday nights thing anyway. But that was a particular one we were all excited about. And dude, we quoted that for years. And when I got this DVD, I think the year after it released, I am not kidding you, we watched this every year together and we quoted the shit out of this episode. I could give you 10 or 20 quotes right now of Halloween, a jacked up Halloween off the top of my head. I'm not going to do that to you, but I could. My favorite line being the one about Irwin, if anybody has seen the episode. Irwin being in the turtle costume, and he holds up the eggs. Yes, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm sorry, but dude, you must see Billy and Mandy's Jacked Up Halloween. It's the funniest Halloween thing ever, dude. Anyway, I really don't have much more to say. Aside from, I think Billy and Mandy might have the best cartoon theme song or TV show theme song ever. I really believe that. I love Boy Meets World to death. But cartoon-wise, theme song-wise, Billy and Mandy's is pretty iconic, man. I forgot to talk about one of my favorite characters in here, man. So I guess I'll talk about a few, like, villains per se, but not really villains. One of them is basically a redheaded Kurt Russell from Escape from L.A. and Escape from New York, the John Carpenter films. His name is Haas Delgado. And he has a missing hand that can do all these crazy things like make laser guns and stuff. He drives this massively loud monster truck that's super tall. It runs over everything, has this rivalry with Grim. He's kind of a loner dude, but he like goes places to kill monsters and stuff. And the dude is so stupid, but dude, you cannot tell me you won't laugh hearing Haas Delgado talk. He talks like this. It's really funny, man. I love him. He's so gruff. Clearly Kurt Russell in that role. Not as an actor for this role, but clearly that's what he's modeled after. Makes the joke even better. You have other characters too, like Billy at one point gets a spider egg cracked open on his back, and the little baby spider is a supernatural spider that grows into, within a couple of days or a day or something, grows into this big, humongous spider. Like we're talking the size of a car, named Jeff. And Jeff the spider looks at Billy as his dad. It's kind of like when you have a duckling or a kitten or something hatch or born or whatever in front of you, they start to look at you as the parent. That's what happens with Billy. This giant spider, and Billy's afraid of spiders, by the way. This giant spider won't leave Billy alone, and he's always nice to Billy, but Billy beats the shit out of him with everything he possibly can. This show has the best sense of humor ever. And I would argue it has some of the best heart ever in anything. One of my favorite episodes, also, aside from the Harry Potter stuff and the Jacked Up Halloween thing, is probably the one where Billy goes to Valhalla and he keeps getting killed on the battlefield, and then he comes back to like the dining hall and eats and eats and eats, and then goes back out into Valhalla's fighting stuff in the Viking, Norse mythology, and keeps dying on the battlefield and coming back to eat. Dude, the way they incorporate things like that into this show is so good. Now, I've really got to talk about one more thing. I mentioned the Universal Monsters earlier. If you love the Universal Monsters, you need to watch this show, because there's a lot of episodes dedicated to portions of that. So there's... I got to talk about this. I have to. So the three real Universal Monsters this show really focuses on, at one point, is Dracula, who is black. And I say that because back, for you young kids who don't know this, back in, I think it was the 70s, we had a movie series called Blackula. It was a black Dracula. He had, an afro and everything, and it's fucking hilarious. This Dracula might be my favorite Dracula in anything ever, because the jokes they give him, the voice actor who plays him, it's like nothing you've ever seen. He is so funny and quotable. He and Grimm get in an argument at one point about how vampires suck blood, and he has to explain to Grimm, I don't suck, I bite and lick, and he keeps making this noise with his tongue, and his tongue is sticking out of his face and flapping. Dude, it is so timelessly funny. I just don't have the words to explain to you how perfect this show is. The other Universal Monsters, you have the Bride of Frankenstein in here, and they're all old. That's the big joke about the Universal Monsters. They're all old. The Wolfman is hairy, but he's balding on top of his head. The Bride of Frankenstein is wearing these big-ass bifocals on her head, and she can't hear. She can't hear anything anybody's saying. But she's always falling apart and stuff. Just the slightest movement, her arm will just tumble off. There's so many good jokes, man. So many good jokes. I can't explain to you enough, and I've raved about this show for so long, for this review and for other channels, and I've talked about it on my Goosebumps channel. The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy has to be one of the greatest cartoons ever, regardless of whether you've seen it or not, or you're a big fan of it or not. It is so iconic and so good, as great as Johnny Bravo, the Powerpuff Girls, Ed, Edd n Eddy. What is the one called? Was it Time Squad? I'm pretty sure it was called, from Cartoon Network. Dexter's Laboratory. There's so many great ones from that network, that company, and this has to be the best one they ever put out. And I cannot believe the disrespect that it gets. I can't. Anyway, that's pretty much the end of my thoughts about the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. Obviously, if you have not seen it, it's a hidden horror. You need to watch it. It is so funny, and if you're a horror fan, you're going to get so much out of this show that you would never think you would. I promise you. If you have not seen it, just give it a couple episodes. Do the Jacked Up Halloween episodes, but if you can't find those for some reason, watch anything else you can. I promise you, it will make your day, dude. So anyway, when it comes to Billy and Mandy, or Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, if I had to rate it on a 5-star basis, if you can't tell already, and this goes for the show, not the movies. I have to specify, because I don't think the movies are that good, but I haven't had time to rewatch them to review for you guys. The show itself is a 5 out of 5 stars for me. I think it is absolutely just endlessly classic. I really hope that, again, the sign of this not being on the streaming service is a sign that maybe we're getting a full box set for this physically, like we have with all these other shows except for Johnny Bravo, like I said. This show deserves it, more than any of those shows, in my opinion, because of how funny it is. So anyway, thank you all for watching, guys. What's your favorite Cartoon Network cartoon ever? Let me know all that down below too. But if you loved Billy and Mandy, let me know your favorite episodes. Let me know your favorite moments, your favorite characters, all of that stuff. What's your favorite joke in the show? Like I said, mine's probably the Irwin turtle scene, or the bite and lick, bite and scrape, whatever it is, the Blackula joke. You've got to watch them. I'm telling you, they will make your whole day. There's clips of them all over YouTube, man. So anyway, thank you all for watching, guys. God bless you all. Catch you later, and goodbye.